Okay, now it is. Thank you so much, Zoe. I had it recorded on like the other version. Okay, so if you're just joining us, I am going to start on the browser version right now. For those of you who do not have the browser version downloaded, if you go to your Launchpad and you already have the Microsoft programs downloaded, you should have it as an option already. So you can just click on it, log in, and go from there. If you do not have that available to you, you can go into your Office 365 button here, and then click the option for installing Office apps. So you would click Install Software, and you're good to go from here. The hiccup is that when you go to Office, if you don't already have it downloaded as a desktop app, you'll notice here that we are not allowed to download that. So make sure that you reach out to the Community Brands IT team. If you just Google Community Brands IT, you'll be able to grab their email, and they have like a ticket service that can go into. I know a couple of 501 people have already had hiccups with that. Because that is the case, I want to show you how to use the browser version as like the primary form. And then we'll go into the desktop version just to give you some examples of what you can do there. So under Office 365, under Outlook here, you're going to have access to your mail, your calendar, your contacts, and your task list. Sorry, it always takes my email a little bit longer to load. So for those of you, I mean, I assume most people on this call have used an email server before, but just to give you a brief overview of things, this far left column here is very similar to the far left column of like a Gmail account with your folders. Under each folder, if you right click, you can create subfolders. That's especially helpful for people who have specific clients to create client folders. As you'll see here, I have one big client folder, and then I have it dated by year. And then I have an archive section, so my spring 2018 archive, and then my fall 18 events as they come up. If you do ever need to reorder these, you can just drag them into the appropriate folder, or you can right click to either rename the folder or move it to a different section. Super handy. The drag and drop feature is actually not something that Gmail really has, and it is really helpful to be able to just quickly move your emails around. Moving into the middle column here, this is actually your list of all current emails. Some of you may have what it'll say like focused and then other at the top. In my first few days of using this, I didn't find having like a focused inbox particularly helpful because I need to be able to see everything as it comes in. So if you go to filter and then deselect or check the show focused inbox option, that's going to give you those changes there. So what you'll notice now, it says focused and other. My Outlook hasn't figured out what my other would be because pretty much every email I need to reply to. So I like to keep that turned off. You can also take a number of actions with any email in here. So I'm going to scroll down to like a conversation that I was having with one of my clients. So Josh here, if I wanted to preview all of the conversations in this thread, I could click this down arrow to expand the conversation, and it's going to automatically scroll me through here. For people who use Gmail, the big difference between a conversation view in Outlook and a conversation view in Gmail, the latest message appears at the top of an Outlook conversation chain, whereas with Gmail, it would appear all the way at the bottom when you're replying to things. So not a big deal, just something to be aware of. And then for any email, there's a number of actions that you can take based on these little shadowed tiles here. The first is moving it to a specific folder. I find it way easier and actually a huge advantage to just be able to drag and drop, not something that was available to Gmail users previously. So really handy. I can also mark a message as read or unread. So if I open something mistakenly and I want to mark it as unread again, I can mark that here. I can also flag a message, and as soon as I have flagged that message, that's going to go into my tasks and flagged items section. We are going to go into this, excuse me, we are going to go into this in greater detail, but let's say I had flagged this email right here. As soon as I go into my tasks, I'll notice that on today's section, I have that email in essentially like a to-do list for me. And then finally, you can pin items. I didn't find a good use for this in my experience, but if you just wanted an email to appear always at the top of your inbox, something that you're going to see right away, regardless of how everything else is organized, you can pin that email in there. Going back into the filter view, you can select things as just viewing unread items. I know I always had my Gmail sorted with an unread section at the top and then a read section at the bottom. There's not a split version of that in Outlook, but you can use the filter to only see unread, flagged emails, etc. And then one really handy thing that is not available in Gmail is you can preview your events for the current day. I don't have anything going on for the rest of the day, which is really great. And then if I wanted to see my agenda view in a quick preview, I can show that here. And I can also jump to my calendar. Just save me the whole work of moving my mouse down to the bottom. But it is a nice little shortcut. And then finally, in the right-hand column here, the far right, I can start interacting with an email. I have my email set so that anytime I reply, it is automatically set to reply all. I can show you how to change those settings around, but for most of my clients, I want to make sure I have everyone on the email chain. I can also do things like launching Salesforce Inbox, which is an add-on to the Office programming. I'm going to go ahead and launch that here. Now, this is something I think we're going to get a lot more details on as we grow into Salesforce. I know for 501 people, we haven't used it previously, and it is really new, but there's some really cool things in here that we can do. The first is if I wanted to log this email or add it to a new record, I can do that. I can also preview all tasks that I have associated. So tasks, they don't necessarily have to correspond to this email. They're just things that in Salesforce I've created for a specific day. If I am replying to an email, this is the really, really good stuff, and I have Salesforce Inbox launched, you'll notice that I can turn on read receipts. I can also activate a send later function. So for those of us who use Mixmax or some other sort of email add-on previously, these are those pretty typical features that we can use. So if I turn send later on, I can schedule that time. At the bottom here, I can also offer availabilities. So I have already set up one example of an availability, like a kickoff call, for example. So I have that saved as a saved meeting. So if I wanted to create, say, like a logistics review, or I'm not sure, sorry if I'm not speaking the language of everyone on the call, but a specific client call, I can create those as saved meetings, create them with a specific time slot. My conference line info will automatically fill in based on what I saved. And then I can just choose different times that I'm available for a call. Once I have added that to the email, I want to make sure you guys can see that. I can send this to the client. As soon as they select one of these time slots, then it will go blocked out onto my calendar. The one really cool advantage over like a Mixmax or another email server is if I sent this same exact block of times to another client, and this client selects 3 to 3:30 p.m. first, On that other client's email, 3 to 3:30 p.m. will then be grayed out. It will no longer be accessible to them. So super cool and very handy. I know like when the season gets busy and you're scheduling 6 logistics reviews in a week, it's really hard to remember when you've blocked out specific times for specific people. So definitely take advantage of that. You can also add in shortcuts. I created one just to give you an example. Hello, I'm at an event at the moment, but please feel free to give me a ring. Just if you wanted to take advantage of those, I'll show you how to create shortcuts in just a moment. And then finally, templates. I think for like Gesture and GiveSmart folks, this is something that at least some of you used before, but at the bottom here, there is a category for like lead CSM, premium CSM process. And this is the kickoff call email template. I anticipate that this is going to be expanded. And the great thing is we'll be able to link this to a specific project. So if I wanted this to be linked to Boston Senior Home Care, I can search that in here and add this to that client's folder in Salesforce as well. So this isn't something that I think is fully put together at the moment, but I think it will come along and be really handy once the season kicks off in the fall. And then under email details, this is again similar to the options we saw when we were just previewing the email and not replying to it. Tasks, again, is our list of Salesforce tasks. And then at the end here are our options to view our full send later folder, view our full read receipts folder, and then change our settings around, just to give you an idea of what that pop-up looks like. If I had read receipts on, I can see who has viewed my emails and when they have viewed them. I can view what emails I have scheduled to send and the date that it will send. And I can create or edit shortcuts. So again, I made that one for being at an event, and I can save or change that around from here. So that is Salesforce Inbox. Just so you know, this is also available in the desktop app version with the exact same process with it. It's really handy. I think a lot of us will be taking huge advantage of that as we really get to know Salesforce. That is the gist of emailing. It feels silly to say that, but it is it's just knowing where to click really compared to like a Gmail experience. I am going to jump into the calendar settings now. If anyone has questions, particularly on or specifically on emails, feel free to post those and I will try and jump in. One thing I did want to point out, and I apologize, this is something that'll go into all of the calendar as well, is groups. So many of us are already on a team. So I'm a premium CSM and I'm on a specific team. If I wanted to view emails that have gone into that team, I can preview actions that my teammates have taken here. If I didn't want to get like certain notifications in here, I can change what I'm following so that I don't have to get notifications every time something happens. The good news is that, let's say like Jen here has created her PTO days. This is not something that's going to pop up in my email. Essentially think of this as like an update, like a change log of things that have happened on my team's calendar. If I was actually on an email chain, like someone put the team, Phil Yorkston as a team as like the senders that it's going to, that will pop up in my inbox as normal. Liz, I saw your question there. So arranging the folders, I believe it's going to do it similar to Gmail where it's arranged by date or it's alphabetized automatically. I've come up with some hacks, so I'll like throw different symbols in front of things. I'll always put zeros in front of them. And go from there. So it will organize itself very similar to how Gmail would organize folders on the side. And Taylor Bod asked about using the Outlook app version versus using a web browser, which is a fantastic question. I wish that I could tell you guys exactly why there are so many differences between the Outlook browser version and the Outlook desktop version, specifically for Macs. It sounds like from the seemingly endless Office threads that I've been reading the past 2 weeks, that they are working on it, but there are just some things that are not accessible between the browser version and are not accessible between the desktop version. They don't always communicate back with one another. I'm going to point out all the differences. I personally have found that I like emailing from the Outlook browser version, and I like looking at my calendar from the desktop version as well as my tasks from the desktop version. So both would be my answer. I know that's not like ideal, but that's what I've found works best. All right, so jumping into Calendar, here, you will see all of the calendars that you have been added to, including your own and the email that you linked. So like this is my Google Calendar. When you've clicked on it and it's highlighted, that means that it is appearing on your calendars up top. Right now I have it set up so every calendar that I am looking at is merged together into one day. If I wanted to view it split apart, I can click this button, and then I'll get a column for each of the calendars I'm currently looking at. I prefer to have everything merged and to look at things day by day. If you want to change it to a work week, you can see that here. And you can always jump to the specific day. So if I'm looking at a month and I go to the 8th and I want to jump back to today, it'll highlight back down to the 21st for me. At the bottom here, you can continue to add things like your group's calendar. So if I didn't want to see PTO or EBT days, I can just deselect that, deselect the premium CSMs, and just be looking at my own situation here. If you have people that you want to look at their calendar, so for example, my coworker Haley, I want to see her calendar. If I go to From Directory, I can search people's emails that are under the Community Brands umbrella and open that up. The one thing you'll note is that I don't get the details of Haley's calendar. I just get blocked out dates of when she's available and when she is busy. You can edit your sharing permissions for people. So if I right click on calendar and I go to sharing permissions, I can give other people access to my calendar, and I can give them access at specific levels. So for example, I gave Haley full details, so I'll have to bother her about why she's not giving me access. But you can change that around to just being busy, viewing just the titles and locations, or actually like full accessibility to edit and make changes from there. So if you did want to, say, add your manager, add someone on your team, you would just type in their email here and then give them the options from there. You can also do things like interesting calendars. So for World Cup people, you guys can put that in. I find that it just clutters things on a work calendar for me, but it is available if you would like to do that. In terms of actually adding things to your calendar, that works pretty much identical to the Google Calendar, and I think all calendar browser versions of things. If you click more details, you can do things like create repeating calendar marks. So, you know, I have equipment blocked out every Tuesday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. And I can repeat that every specific day for a given amount of time. You can also set when you'd like to get reminders, including email reminders. Now, I don't know if other people took advantage of this. On Google Calendar, I took a lot of advantage of text reminders. I would set up a lot of like SMS messages for like kickoff calls or things like that that I had, or just big days that I wanted to be aware of. To my knowledge, the only reminders that you can set for events are via email here. Oh, actually, and I apologize, let me show you how to add a Skype Hangout. So similar to a Google Hangout, if you just click Add Skype Meeting, that will give you the same accessibility of adding a Google Hangout to a Google Calendar invite. And feel free, I know I'm putting a lot of this in the context of Google Calendar because that's what at least 501 was using previous. If there's another server that people are using or another service that people were using, I can always try and make some comparisons there. And then if I did want to add people to that, I can just select them from here. Is there a way to have the calendar invite send time zone other than yours but appear on your calendar? Sorry, Anne, I'm just reading through this question. Yes, so I believe with the time zone settings here, you can change that and add specific time zones so that things will appear in the calendar invite with that. I also personally, like I always add in the details of the calendar invite that I put things into EST. And adjust yours to PST as well. Yes, yep, so you can continue to add whatever time zones that you would need to in here. Does that answer your question, Anne? Gotcha. So this time zone, let me see if I can add a time zone in here and see if we can do an exact example. So I believe when you set things up so that it's like, if I've sent this calendar invite to go as a Pacific time 11 a.m. calendar invite, if I'm sending this to someone who's on Pacific time, it would appear as 11 to 11:30 a.m. and it would then appear as whatever the appropriate time, I guess that would be, I think, was it 1 o'clock or maybe 2 o'clock Eastern time on my calendar. And you're saying that's not happening for you. I'm going to do a little test here. Thanks for bearing with. Yes, so I set that so that the email would appear as an 11 to 11:30 a.m. meeting in Pacific time. And when I created it on my calendar, because I have my calendar set up as Eastern time, it shows up at 2 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. So what you're going to want to take advantage of when you're creating those calendar invites is clicking more details. Sorry, I know it always makes you feel a little nuts when it like won't work for you, but make sure when you're going into your time zone that you have selected the time and then used whatever time selected here appropriately to reflect on whoever's calendar it may be. And then it should automatically be updating based on that calendar's settings for the time zone that it's in. But great question. I know for like most of us, we have at least 2 time zones we're working with. So it's good to know where that can happen. I'm going to keep going from calendars. Feel free to keep posting any questions in there and I'll jump back on them. Moving into people. Now in the desktop version, this is called contacts. This is just a full list of the people that you have created as a contact. A quick note, so just because you have emailed someone, that does not mean that they are a contact. You actually do need to convert them into a contact if you would like to. You can add people into contact lists. So say I want to add Bethany and Emily into a list. I can select their name and go to list, new contact list here. Now, one important note, and Taylor, this is probably relevant for people who are going in between the browser and the desktop version. For some reason, contact lists that are created in the browser version and contact lists that are created in the desktop app do not correspond with one another. So just because I've created a Boston group here does not mean that when I go into my desktop Outlook and type an email, I'll be able to type in Boston as a list. I don't know if people really take advantage of that, but just so you know, you're not nuts. That it doesn't correspond like that. The other great thing is, let's say I have a large group that I've created, for example, like our Boston office, and I'm going to send them an email here. I'll select that group, and then if I want to take, Haley off this list because she's on vacation, if I click the plus button, I can just remove her and get a full expanded list of everything in that group. That's really the gist of contacts. I haven't found too many uses for it, specifically because the lists don't really carry over. I tried to make a contact list for all of my different client groups, but since it doesn't correspond between the two, it hasn't been enormously helpful for me. And then finally, moving on to tasks and flagged items. So like I showed you before, these flagged items and tasks is just a running list, very similar to in Google Calendar, how you had reminders set up for yourself, or a task list on the far right-hand side. You can set specific days for your tasks. As we can see here, I have things that are overdue, and those will appear at the top. I can also, just like in email, just like in the inbox, I can sort things and just view overdue items. This is really handy. You can, once you've clicked on these, you can add a lot more details than you ever could with like a Google reminder. You can add a lot more text to them, and it is very, very handy. Another important note is that in the Outlook desktop version of this, you do have the ability to sort things into categories here. I, at least on the browser version, have not found a way to sort into categories. So if that's something you're looking to take advantage of, make sure you're doing it in the desktop version. And I will show you all how to do that later. All right, I am going to go through a whole bunch of just settings really quickly. Before I do that, I'm going to pause for any questions on these 4 icons we just went through on the browser version. Alrighty, I'll keep an eye on the chat. So in terms of settings, I'm just going to click into this gear icon at the top, and I encourage everyone after this call, whenever you have a moment, just go through and click through all of your settings. It's super handy to know. So as long as I am in the inbox version and then I click this gear, I will get a number of shortcut settings, such as setting up my out of office reply, changing around my display settings, and managing add-ins. So if you do not have Salesforce Inbox added to your add-ins, you can go in there. It's very similar to like the App Store on Chrome. Salesforce Inbox is the one you are looking for. There's a couple different Salesforce options, but if you click on that one, right now it has it added for me, but I could always remove it and add it again if need be. Another important one, if you'd like, is Giphy. I don't know if that's important to anyone else, but it is to me. So make sure you have that included in there. And then continuing down all the way to the bottom here, under your app settings, I'm going to walk you through these here. So Office 365 settings are largely determined by community brands already. Under settings, you do have a couple of quick options, like changing your color scheme, as well as changing the start page, which I think by default, a lot of people land on the Office 365 homepage, which is that page with just the tiles of all of the different programs. I like it to just just open right on my email. So I've selected Outlook here and saved that. And I can also turn on my notifications. I can select the specific ones that I would like available to pop up. So this is perhaps the most important point I will make this entire call, and I'll repeat it at the end. Notifications are kind of tricky with Office 365. In the browser, they will pop up within the browser at the top there, so you do have to have that window open. And in the desktop version, they will appear on the bottom down here. Now, if I am in another program, or if I'm on like a client website and I have a 10-minute warning that comes in, for some reason, and again, this is something that according to Microsoft Threads, they're working on, the warning message, the reminder message does not appear across your entire screen. It only appears as a pop-up when you are looking at the browser version of Outlook or you are looking at the desktop version of Outlook. So just be very wary of that if you have a meeting coming up, that you have that on your own radar and you don't have it just expecting it to pop up across the top of the screen. For example, like a Google Calendar invite, or sorry, reminder would do. So very, very important. There's been like 2 times in the past week where I've like just made it to a call because I only clicked into the Outlook and saw like a 1-minute countdown for a meeting. So very, very important that you're able to add and change that around. And then with, sorry, still under my account, if I go into personal info, I can change a photo. The rest of this, we really can't edit. It's stuff that's already set up by Community Brands, so you don't need to worry about it. Then continuing on to mail here, we are going to get a whole bunch of options. The first, automatic replies, that is the same as your out of office. So you can shortcut to this by clicking here, or you can go settings, mail, automatic replies. If you have set up your automatic replies, you can choose a specific start and end date, as well as a start and time, which is very handy. Gmail does not have that option with the timing of things. And then you can edit the language for your out of office reply there. Clutter, I have not found a use for. It actually takes a while for Office to learn what counts as clutter in your inbox. And I don't think I'll ever really have clutter separated from my email. But if you have like a lot of, I don't know, Blue Apron emails that come in and you want those identified as clutter and put into a specific folder, you can do that by checking here. Inbox and sweep rules. So inbox rules is particularly handy for those of you who sorted for the specific contracts that come into your email or specific content coming into an email. You like it to go automatically to a folder. You would go to inbox and sweep rules, click the plus button, and then set your conditions and actions from there. One that I usually do is if I have an email that comes in that says refund, for example, and I need to help a client issue a refund quickly, I can have any message that had refund in the body of the message. Refund in the body of the message, I can have it marked as important. So handy, if there's particular things that you like to flag, you can jump in and create rules there. Don't worry about sweep rules. It's like a way to clean up your inbox really quickly, and it's not really something I found particularly handy. Junk email reporting, again, that's things if you wanted to flag particular users or have it go into a specific report, you can set that here. I wouldn't worry about it for right now. Marking emails as read. I think actually this is something you will want to go into. So when you go to mark as read, you can change how things will change between read and unread. Previous to me changing this around, I think I manually had to click that I had read, acknowledged an email as read. But if you go into your settings, mark as read, you can change it so that as soon as you click on the message and then click on another message, it marks it as read. You can also change it so if you've looked at that email for 5 seconds, it will mark as read. So definitely take advantage of that. I don't know why it's set up the default way it is, but I would go in there just to make it easier for yourself. Message options, you don't really need to worry about anything in there. Read receipts. So these are different than the Salesforce inbox This is something like if someone emails you and they've requested that you acknowledge that you have read it, regardless of responding, you can set up specific options, specific responses in there. And then reply settings. As I mentioned earlier, I have mine to default to reply all, but if you would like to, you can change it to just be a reply. I think reply is the default, so if you have a lot of clients that you're frequently emailing, go into your settings and change this to reply all just to avoid leaving anyone off an email chain. I'm going to skip retention policies. It's not particularly relevant, but I did want to point out undo send. This is a Gmail feature that I think a lot of people, including me, take advantage of. If you want to enable undo send, you'll just choose let me cancel. You can choose the window of time that you would like those to go. And then when you have sent that message, you'll notice in your inbox up in this corner here, it'll be like a little timer that basically ticks all the way up, a little bar that ticks all the way up until that message has sent, with an X that'll allow you to cancel the send from happening. For some reason, I could not tell you why again, this is not available in the desktop app. So if you are going to take advantage of undo send, you will only be able to use it if you have sent that email from the browser. All right. And then I'm just going to skip over accounts and attachment options. From what I looked in there, you guys can just keep those as they are. If anyone has particular questions, feel free to ask, but I couldn't think of a reason that you would need it. But going into layout, this is really handy. It's really just changing around the visual layout of your email. So you can change how your messages appear. If you want to show your deleted items, you can do so. If I've deleted them, I don't need to look at them anymore. You can edit your email signature. If you haven't done this already, make sure when you are putting your Community Brands logo in that you've actually dragged and dropped this onto your desktop and that you're uploading it using the image picker, because you'll want to make sure that it goes as a full image. If you just copy and paste it from like another email, the image will not show up when you're emailing your clients. Focused inbox, you can toggle that on and off this way. It's way easier to just do it within the inbox function than going all the way into your settings. You can also set up the way you'd like links to preview, and then the message format, so your font size and style. You can change all those around. Under quick actions, these are those 4 little shadowed icons that I had. You can change these around to whatever you would like. The ones I set up are the ones that I find the most relevant. If you don't want any of them, you can click nothing here. And that's really handy. I'm actually going to change one of mine to be delete rather than pin, and I'll click save so that those updates are made, and when I'm interacting with my emails, I have those shortcuts in front of me. And then finally, reading pane. This is the order in which things appear. You can change this around based on however you would like. And then I think I skipped message list here. This is, again, just how your inbox column, that middle column will appear, and you can change how you would like it to show up. So I like to see the sender first. You can change it to be subject, and you can preview things, and you can also hide your calendar events at the top of the screen. So those are your mail settings. There's a lot in there. I do encourage you to go into the browser version and click that gear, scroll to the bottom, and just literally just click through all of those things and see what's going to work best for you based on your previous experience. Under calendar, these are pretty predetermined, but you can change your calendar's appearance in terms of colors and the start of the week and your working hours. You can also add in weather options. So I have like Boston and Brooklyn, where I am usually in between one of those places. I can also just hide it if I don't want to look at it. Automatic processing, to be honest, don't worry about jumping in there. It's basically just the actions that are taken automatically when certain things come into your inbox. For those of us in like CSM world, you may want to do things like flights, hotel, car, etc. This is the equivalent to when like your Google account would automatically create a flight calendar invite for you when they notice a flight confirmation come into your inbox. Reminders, this is just going to show up. As you may have noticed, I had that email come in from Megan, so it popped up in the top corner here. That's where the other reminders will appear as well, and you can change how far in advance you would like them to appear. You can also set up text message notifications. So I have this set up to send me a text message every morning at 8:30 with that day's agenda. I have it texted to my phone, and I did that by going to edit notification settings and putting my cell phone number in. So if that's not something that stresses you out and you like to read about what you have going on as you're walking into work, it's nice to take advantage of that. That's the gist of calendar settings and people. I couldn't think of too many uses for this, but I'm hoping that eventually we can use import contacts to get contacts from our previous email account. I think that would be really handy for people. All right, so that's a lot of info on the browser version. I am going to jump into the desktop version, but go ahead and post any questions on browsers. Sam, I see your question in here. For some reason, my profile is always set to busy despite switching over to available. Is there something else you can do to fix this? So Sam, it sounds like you're talking about this top corner here of when you are available and busy. To my knowledge, anytime you're like interacting with the browser on Outlook, it'll list you as available unless your calendar has you marked otherwise. You can always like manually change that around in the corner here or reset your status. That is a good thing to check into if you've looked at your calendar and your calendar doesn't have something going on in that time, and you are interacting with the site, let me know, and we can maybe do some troubleshooting. But it should, for the most part, show you as available, unless you have a calendar thing going on. Sorry, buddy. Okay, I will chat with you after the call. We can see what's up with that because I am not sure. Any other questions on the browser or things that you guys have done previously that you are wondering if they're possible? All right, neat. So really quickly going into the desktop version, it is pretty much the exact same layout. Really handy, you still have the same tools at your fingertips, including launching the inbox for all Salesforce procedures. You can still drag and drop things in, very handy. Differences include not being able to undo sends. Your contact list will not sync between the two browsers. And with tasks and with calendars and notes, you cannot create categories, at least to my knowledge, you cannot create categories in the browser version like you can in the desktop version. So just quick overview of things. If you're looking in your email and you want to change your view around, if you go into Organize, you can view things as a conversation flow. So I particularly like to view each email standalone and read everything behind it. But if you like to just have a conversation thread put together, you can link everything that way. And then when you click on that, you'll see all of the emails included in that same conversation. You can also toggle in between a focused inbox or just a regular inbox, and you can have message previews available in this middle column or hidden. Those are all really just your preference and how you like to look at things. You can also create rules and mark all messages as read. That is the gist of the actual mail features of Outlook. Under calendar, it looks very much the same as it did online, including like merging calendars or having them individual. So I can just stack them on top of each other like this. If I have multiple locations, I can set up the location I am currently in. If I want to add a calendar or give someone access to my calendar, I can click Open Shared Calendar. I can search for, like, for example, Community Brands email and add that here. For some people, including Haley, I'll show you this example. She does not have Outlook downloaded as a desktop version, and I therefore cannot view it in my desktop app, whereas I could do this on the browser version. Seems a little silly, but it is what it is, and you'll just have to click around to view things between the two versions. You can also grant people calendar permissions. So I have a number of people in here. I can add a user. So if I wanted to add, for example, my coworker Chi, I think her email is my.tran. Yeah, so I can add her and then change her accessibility around. So she can read the time, subject, and location, or that I'm free or busy. And I can just enable that from here. Under contacts, you can categorize things. You can create lists in here. It is pretty handy if you like to take advantage of contact lists. You can preview all of that in here. Just know that what you've done in here will not correspond to any lists in the browser version. And then with tasks, so as you notice, all of my tasks in the browser version are still here, but I actually have mine set up so that when I'm looking at the desktop, I can view all items that are just specific to, for example, my client Strawberry Bank. So I've listed basically everything I need to do for the entire event out, and this is what I personally do this for every client that I make. I have these set up as soon as the client is assigned to me, so I have it on my radar. You don't have to take advantage of this. It is just an option depending on how you like to stay organized. You can use the smart folders to see what you have going on that day, as well as what is overdue. So those are important things that I need to follow up on. And you can see the things that you've recently completed if you just need to feel really proud of yourself for 10 minutes. As you can see, I have nothing in my recently completed inbox. And then finally, at the end here, there are notes available to you. So I have the task list that I've used for years now of all of the steps I take when I get a new client assigned. So I use this list to add my reminders. And this actually brings me to a really important point. You'll notice that when you are in the, you'll notice that when you are in Outlook, the desktop version, you can't have multiple, like no matter how many times I click on this, I can't have my calendar in another window, so I can have my inbox in one and then on my second screen have my calendar over there. In order to like pop out a calendar or like one of these versions, you'll go to File, New, Main Window. So just a really backwards way of getting there, but this is how you can get another version so that you can have a window of your calendar and a window of your email visible at the exact same time. All right. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in terms of these tiles at the bottom. I did want to show you just setting up some preferences in the Outlook desktop version. So I just went to Outlook Preferences. You can click through here. A lot of them are very self-explanatory. It's just changing around things like how they're viewed, the different colors used, how your signature looks, and creating rules and such. Again, and I said I would finish on this, you can change around your notifications here and have them displayed as an alert on your desktop. But the most important note is if you have created and set up notifications, you must be looking at the Outlook window if you are expecting to see that notification. So if I have, if I have just another Gmail window, or sorry, Google Chrome window in front of me, and I have this as a full screen icon, I will not get the notification in front of this screen. I would have to like manually click back to Outlook to see the little pop-up window down here. It is allegedly, as of like June 8th, 2018, something that Microsoft is working on, but this is also their 2016 program, so who knows how long they've been working on this. So that is the gist of everything. Feel free to ask any other questions. I know I covered a lot, and also I know that there's still a lot to learn, but I hope this was helpful for most people. All right. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to email me. My email is just addie.cox, C-O-X, at Community Brands. And I'm excited that like there's some non-501 people on this call. It's good to chat with you. Yeah, so hopefully this is helpful. Spread the word, and we'll just keep chugging along as we migrate from sweet, sweet Google to all the fun new tools of Outlook. Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.